today concludes our series of 10 days of 10 different ways of vetting a course, product, or educator before investing. So today is the last day of this, and so basically I'm going to put this back on you as the buyer. What are your goals? What are your goals? And what are your expectations from this course? This is where you're going to have to get real with who you are and what it is that you want from this educational product that you may be purchasing. I would say do not lead with, well, I just want to get away from the bedside and replace my income. When you lead with money, it always fails. So don't lead with that. Actually, I had somebody come into a webinar before and they were like, I need to make, whatever it was per month. And I was like, this probably isn't for you because you're leading with money. And if you go out into the world with that type of pressure and that type of mentality, your customers are going to smell it and they're going to not want to invest in you. Just saying. So just understand that patients, especially seniors, are very astute to picking up on things. And so I tell people, don't lead with, I need to make X amount of dollars. Yes, you need to make money to afford your lifestyle. Yes, you need to pay your bills, but don't lead with, I need to make $100,000 in the next 90 days. That is not rational thinking. So don't lead with money. The other thing I would say is that in the beginning of building that business, you're not going to make money the first day that you're like, I'm in business. They're not all going to come in and just rush your door once you hang your shingle out. This is going to take a lot of sweat equity in the beginning, and it's going to take a lot of discipline on your part to build this business. And you have to believe in the vision, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in the cause. And this is why it is really important to understand what your goals are and to understand what is your why around this. If you don't know what your why is, I would recommend going to Simon Sinek, S-E-N-E-K, I believe is how you spell the last name. Go and research his videos on finding your why. It is a deep dive into how to find your why and your purpose. It is a phenomenal experience once you realize what your why is. And a lot of times, that is what you need to be doing. And it doesn't have to do with money. It doesn't have to do with making a certain amount of money, because sometimes you're trading a lifestyle for money. And so I think that in today's society, we put so much emphasis on a dollar amount, and really we're getting to a point where the money doesn't matter. It's all about lifestyle. It's all about showing up for you. It's all about showing up for your family. It's all about showing up in authenticity versus showing up as this, facade of Instagram. I think that society is completely fried and burned out on that. And I think that we are now starting to look at what the other options are out here for us. If you don't know your goals or your purpose or your why, you may find that you're going to be chasing a lot of courses, a lot of products, a lot of degrees, because nothing will ever satisfy you. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I think what tends to happen is we're constantly looking for whatever it is that fills us up. We need to get back to understanding how to fill ourselves up. And when you are coming from a position of complete nervous system dysregulation, which many nurses are, we are living in a fight, flight, freeze. That is an entire series of its own, but we are living in that system of constantly being stressed, constantly being, anxiety ridden. We are not meeting our nutritional needs. We are not even hydrated enough. And so when we come out of that, we're just looking for something to pull us away from that and replace that income and to replace that job. We don't even really care to do a deep dive into, is this the right thing for us or not? We're just so desperate. And I think what is frustrating to me out here, that somebody who's been out here for 15 years now, is I have watched how people have played on that and how people have taken advantage of nurses and said, here is the solution. Here's the answer. This is what you want to be doing. And it's not only just business people doing it, it's also nurses doing it to other nurses. We love to think that we're all in this sisterhood of nursing and we all have each other's back. But at the end of the day, there are are a lot of people who just care about making that money, and they're going to sell you whatever it is that they have to sell you, for the betterment of themselves and not necessarily for the betterment of you. And that is what's propelled me to launch this whole series for 10 days. You have to understand who you are. You have to understand what your vulnerabilities are and what your limitations are as a nurse. One of the things that nurses struggle with when they launch a business is marketing. Marketing is a tough spot for nurses to get over, and as much marketing as we're doing already at the bedside, it is really hard for nurses to push through that wall of marketing. And the reason for that is because when you are marketing, you have to get real with who you are, and you have to get real with what it is that you have and what you don't have. And what you don't have, you need to figure out, and you need to build that up so you can go out and sell to others, so that you can convince others that what you are selling, that your deliverable or your product or your service is valuable to them. If you don't believe it within you, nobody else is going to believe it. The market is what's going to determine your success. And so this is something I often say, and people don't, I think that doesn't land well with people because they don't understand what that means. But what it means is, if they can see through you and they see that you're just trying to sell a product, a course, or a service, or whatever it may be, then they're going to see right through that, and that they may not become your buyer. And so it's really important that you understand what it is that you're selling, why it is that you want to sell it. When I decided to do a foot care business, the reason I wanted to do that foot care business was because I wanted to get back to serving patients, and I wanted to get back to sitting in front of the patient and having that one-to-one conversation with these patients. I loved that. That is what filled me up, and that goes back to a childhood incident that happened with my why, and that I discovered while watching Simon Sinek. And so it's one of those things. That's why it's important to understand your why. So I started to work with these seniors, and I loved it. And that's what filled my soul, was the conversation and the dialogue that I felt like the healthcare system had stripped away from us when they brought in the computer system. They put a wall between us and the patient, and I missed that. I missed that conversation that I got to have with these patients, especially because they were seniors, and I just loved them. So what I found for myself was, it wasn't about a dollar amount. All I needed to do was make what I was making in the hospital, and I was completely happy with that. That's all I was trying to do. I just wanted to do it on my own terms and do it in my own space and not have that stress every day coming at me. What I found was, through the business of doing foot care, was that not only did I get to fill my love cup with these patients, I actually doubled and tripled the money that I was making at the bedside. That was just a byproduct of the service itself. I never left my bedside position thinking, oh, I'm going to go out there and make, $100+ an hour doing foot care. That wasn't the driving force of this. This was just a better lifestyle, and it was just a better way for me to be home in the evenings with my son, be able to attend games, be able to have weekends and holidays off. And that is what I was searching for. The money was the byproduct. So don't lead with, how much am I going to make? What am I going to do? As much as you want to vet a course and a product and such, you also want to get real with who you are and what your limitations are and what it is that you're going to be able to do. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you're going to find that you're floundering out here, and you're going to constantly be searching for something else to fill that up. And so this is what we see a lot oftentimes when we see people who are constantly purchasing things, or constantly, going and getting new degrees, certifications, and whatnot. Don't come for me. If you're one of those people, that's fine, great, good for you. I hated school. That was not my thing. That was not my tea. So if you're one of those people that's just like, I'm an educating, person, I love to learn and I love to get all this stuff, good for you. I totally love that. I am not that person. So this is why I speak to it from a different side of things, because that's just not my wheelhouse. So anyway, I hope this series has helped you, and I hope that you can take little tidbits from what you've learned and go forward and hopefully build a business and find that there is blessings out here in nurse entrepreneurship. It is a struggle, but it is a beautiful, rewarding blessing if you can get over your own vulnerabilities and build those businesses. Thanks so much. Take care. Hope this series has helped you all.